This is the first thing in the entire Bible that God ever looked at and called not good. Not murder, not a broken commandment. This. And it is the exact thing you have felt lying awake at 2 a.m. in a house full of people or on the empty side of a bed and could not quite explain. Here's the part that should stop you. When God said it, nothing was broken yet. No sin, no shame, no death. A flawless world, a flawless man, and the Maker looks straight at him and says the one word he had never once said about anything. Rewind to the 6th day. Everything is finished and everything works. The light works, the oceans work, the animals work. 7 times the Maker steps back from his own creation and stamps it with the same word. Good, good, good. Then he turns to the crown of all of it, a man, awake, breathing, standing in paradise with nothing missing from the world around him. And for the first time in the story, God says the opposite word, not good, in a perfect world, about a sinless man. So what did God see that we have spent the rest of history trying to name? Stay with me, because the translation you grew up on hid most of the answer. The rest of that sentence is one you have probably heard 100 times. It is not good for the man to be alone. And most of us fill in the meaning instantly. Alone. Loneliness. Okay, sure. But there are 3 things hiding inside this verse that the English quietly flattened. What not good really meant to the designer. What alone meant when the man was standing in the presence of God himself, and the word for the fix God named, which centuries of translation shrank down into something small and almost insulting. Pull those 3 open, and this stops being a verse about marriage. It becomes the oldest and most honest thing ever said about the ache you have felt in a crowded room. And this is the part I most want you to hear, so stay with me. The first thing God ever called broken was not a sin you committed. It was a signal he installed. You already know the sermon version of this. You have heard it. God made you for community. Loneliness means you need to get plugged in, join a group, serve somewhere, stop isolating. And none of that is wrong. Community is real medicine, and the people who told you that were trying to help you. But maybe you did all of it. Maybe you are in the group. Maybe you have the friends, the family, the packed calendar, the church on Sunday, and you still lie there at night with this specific hollow feeling that you cannot explain and are a little ashamed of. Because you are supposed to have God. And if you have God, you are not supposed to feel this, right? Hold that thought, because the man in this story had God perfectly, with nothing in the way. And God still looked at him and said, something is not good here. So whatever loneliness is, the Bible refuses to treat it as a sign that your faith is failing. Watch what it treats it as instead. Let's slow down and read the neighborhood this verse lives in, because context is everything here. The first chapter of Genesis has a rhythm to it, almost like a drumbeat. God makes something, God inspects it, God says it is good. The Hebrew word is tov, and tov is not a soft, sentimental word. It carries the idea of something that is functioning the way it was meant to, fit for purpose, working. When a craftsman finishes a table and it stands level and holds weight, that table is tov. So when God keeps saying it was good, he is not gushing. He is a builder inspecting the work and confirming the work holds. 7 times in that chapter, the inspection passes. And at the peak, after making humanity, the text bumps it up. Very good. Now watch something almost nobody notices. Chapter 2 zooms in and retells the making of the man in close-up, like a camera moving in for one detail the wide shot missed. And in that close-up, God places the man in the garden, gives him meaningful work, tending the ground, gives him a relationship with God, walking with him directly, gives him animals, a whole zoo of living company, gives him one rule, one boundary, which in the ancient world was itself a kind of gift, a way of being trusted. Look at that picture. That man is not isolated. He has purpose. He has a job. He has creatures all around him. And he has unbroken, face-to-face closeness with his creator, the thing every one of us supposedly longs for most. And into that picture, that full, sinless, God-saturated picture, God speaks the first negative sentence in the Bible. It is not good. Feel how strange that is. The problem is not that the man sinned. He has not sinned. The problem is not that God is distant. God is right there. The problem is not that the man is lazy or ungrateful or doing something wrong. The text is crystal clear. In a world where everything else passed inspection, the designer himself points at one thing and says, "This part is not finished yet." And I know this next jump sounds odd, but stay with me because it is half the reason I made this video. Roughly 3,000 years after these words were written, scientists studying loneliness in a lab with zero interest in proving the Bible landed on almost the identical verdict. That the ache of being alone is not a mood, and it is not a weakness. It is a measurable signal, wired into the body on purpose, doing a job. We are going to look at the actual brain scans in a few minutes, and it is the part that gave me chills. For now, just hold the overlap in your head. The oldest book we own and the newest research we have both keep saying the same strange thing. Being alone is not sad. It is not good, the way a blinking warning light is not good. And I want you to sit in that, because it quietly demolishes something a lot of us were taught. We were taught that if we just loved God enough, the loneliness would evaporate. That the ache is a spiritual deficiency, a hole that only God fills, and if the hole is still there, we must be doing faith wrong. But the man in Eden had more of God than you or I have ever had, and the ache was still there by design. God put it there. God named it. God did not scold the man for feeling incomplete. God agreed with him before he even said a word. So before we ever get to the fix, we have to let the diagnosis land. Loneliness, in the very first place it appears in Scripture, is not a symptom of the fall. It shows up before the fall. It is not evidence that something is wrong with you. In this story, it is the one thing the sinless man could not fix by trying harder, and the first thing God rolled up his sleeves to build. Keep that alarm bell in the corner of your eye. We are coming back to it. So here is the first reveal, the meaning of not good. We read not good as a moral verdict, bad, sinful, wrong. But that is not how the word works in this chapter. Everywhere else, tov means functioning as intended. So lo tov, not good, is not God calling the man wicked. It is God, the builder, flagging an incomplete design. It is a note on the blueprint. Not this man is bad, but this system is not finished, and I am about to finish it. Loneliness, then, is not a moral failure. It is a design flag, a signal on the dashboard. Earlier, I promised you the brain scans, so here they are. And this is where 3 witnesses walk in that the ancient author never could have called to the stand. For the last 2 decades, scientists studying loneliness have arrived, completely independently, at the exact conclusion the text has been sitting on the whole time. The late John Cacioppo, who basically founded the neuroscience of loneliness at the University of Chicago, argued that loneliness is not really an emotion at all. He argued it should be understood as a biological drive, like hunger or thirst. Think about what that means. Hunger is uncomfortable by design because the discomfort is what pushes you to go find food. The pain is the point. The pain is the feature. And Cacioppo said loneliness is the social version of exactly that, a built-in early warning system. The ache exists to move you toward connection, the same way hunger moves you toward a meal. The problem was never the signal. The signal is your brain doing its job. That is receipt number 1, and it is saying word for word what Genesis said. The discomfort is installed. It is not a defect. Receipt number 2. In 2020, researchers at MIT put people through a day of real social isolation and then scanned their brains. And they found that loneliness and hunger light up the same deep region of the brain, the part that governs our most basic cravings. Their conclusion was blunt. Our need to connect is apparently as fundamental as our need to eat. Receipt number 3, and this one is the mortality bill. In 2023, the US Surgeon General released an advisory calling loneliness a public health epidemic. The headline finding, drawn from research by Julianne Holt-Lundstad, was that the mortality impact of being socially disconnected is comparable to smoking about 15 cigarettes a day, worse than obesity, worse than physical inactivity, and roughly 1 in 2 American adults were reporting loneliness even before the pandemic hit. 3 witnesses: neuroscience, brain imaging, and public health. None of them are trying to prove the Bible, and all 3 land on the same verdict God gave on day 6. It is not good for a human to be alone. Not a weakness, not a sin. A design that is not meant to run solo, sounding an alarm that is doing precisely what it was built to do. So let me hand you the reframe, plainly. You have been treating the alarm like it was the fire. You feel the loneliness, and somewhere underneath, a voice says, "This ache means something is wrong with me. I am unlovable. I am failing at faith. I am too much, or not enough, or broken in some way other people are not." So you try to smash the alarm. You numb it, you scroll it, you overwork past it. You pray it should just stop. But the alarm was never the emergency. The alarm is a healthy system telling the truth. The ache is not evidence that you are broken. In the oldest story we have, the ache is evidence that you are working exactly the way you were built to work. A person who felt nothing in total isolation would be the one with the malfunction. And this is the weight of it landing before the fall, in the garden, with God fully present. It means your loneliness is not a verdict on your walk with God. The most spiritually connected human who ever lived in that garden still had this ache, and God did not treat it as a problem with the man. He treated it as a part of the man not yet complete. The ache came standard. It came with the body. You did not earn it, and you cannot pray it out of the blueprint. If that just took some weight off your chest, do me one small favor and subscribe. This channel exists to hand the ancient text back to you, the way it was written, before the translations sanded the corners off. And there is a lot more of it coming. Now, back to the garden. Because we have only read the first half of God's sentence, and the second half tells us what the cure is. It is not what you think, and for centuries, the translators got it almost exactly backward. But before God fixes anything, he does something that, on the surface, sounds almost cruel. Watch closely, because it is strange and it is deliberate. He does not immediately produce the solution. First, he brings every animal to the man to be named, and the text tells us why it went that way. But for the man, there was not found a helper fit for him. God let him look. God let the man meet every creature, name every creature, and come up empty. God engineered the ache before he filled it. He let the man feel the exact shape of what was missing, so that when the answer came, the man would know it in his bones. Sometimes the emptiness you are feeling is not God being absent. It is God letting you name the hole before he fills it. Then comes the phrase everyone has heard and almost everyone has shrunk. God says he will make a helper suitable for him. In Hebrew, Ezer Kenegdo. Now, helper sounds like an assistant, a sidekick, someone who fetches things. That is what a marriage sermon often does with it. But go find every other place the word Ezer shows up in the Hebrew Bible. It appears around 21 times, and the overwhelming majority of the time it is used of God himself, as Israel's rescuer and defender, often in a military sense. The scholar Robert Alter says plain help is too weak because the word connotes active intervention on someone's behalf, the kind you see in the Psalms when God is your shield. So the word God chose for the answer to loneliness is not servant. It is closer to a rescuing strength that comes alongside you. And the second word, Kenegdo, means corresponding to him, face to face as an equal, one who stands opposite you, not below you and not above you, in front of you, matching you. Which means the cure for the first loneliness was never get served. It was be matched. Somebody who stands across from you and sees you. And that reframes the whole ache. What you are starving for is not people around you. It is someone in front of you. And now the piece we planted at the start pays off. How does God build her? The old translations say he took a rib, and you can technically get rib out of the Hebrew word tselah. And this is where it gets strange. That same word appears around 40 other times in the Hebrew Bible, and nearly every single time it is translated side. The side of the tabernacle, the side of the ark, architectural sides. Only in this one story does it get rendered rib. And notice the verb. The text does not say God formed her the way he formed things from dust. It uses the word banah, which means to build, the word for constructing a house or a sacred structure. So the picture is less like a surgeon snapping off a small bone and more like a builder taking a whole side of the man and constructing his counterpart from it. God opened him up and built the answer out of what was inside him.
Now, I have to be honest with you, because that matters more than a clean story. Some teachers run all the way to the ancient idea that the first human was a single, two-sided being that God literally split in half. That is a real and old tradition, but it is interpretation, not something the text nails down, so hold it loosely. And yes, tselah can carry the sense of rib. I am not telling you the translators were fools. What I am telling you is that the dominant meaning of the word is side, the verb is build, and both point the same direction. This was not God harvesting a spare part. This was God performing surgery on the man, at real cost, opening him up to make the one thing the man could not make for himself. And that is where we have to guard the truth on both sides, because there are two ditches here. The ditch on the left says, so I am incomplete until I find my other half, my person, my spouse, and until then, I am half a human chasing my missing piece. That turns other people into the thing that saves you, and it will crush every relationship you put that weight on. No spouse and no friend was ever built to be your God. The ditch on the right is the opposite, the one a lot of religious people fall into. It says, God is enough, so I should not need anyone. If I still ache for people, I should just suppress it and be more spiritual. But that reading argues with the garden itself. God was fully present, and God still said, not good, alone. The same God who is enough is the God who designed you to need a face across from you. Suppressing the alarm is not holiness. It is ignoring your own maker's diagnosis. The road down the middle is this. The ache is real and God-given. And the answer is a costly built thing. Connection that stands face to face with you. It does not fall out of the sky, and it does not come free. Somebody, somewhere, has to be opened up to make it. Usually, that somebody is you. So let me talk to you for a second, whoever you are tonight.
Maybe you are the one who has been carrying quiet shame about this. You love God, you show up, you believe, and you still feel achingly alone. And you have decided that means your faith is defective. Hear the garden. The most God-connected man who ever lived felt it too, before he ever did a single thing wrong.
Your loneliness is not a report card on your spiritual life. It is an alarm working correctly. Stop trying to repent of a smoke detector. Or maybe you are surrounded. You have the group chat, the coworkers, the full house, and you still feel unseen. And it has been making you feel crazy and ungrateful. You are not crazy. Remember the word. You were not built to be near people. You were built to be matched, seen face to face by someone who corresponds to you. Proximity is not the cure. Being known is. It is completely possible to be crowded and starving at the same time. Or maybe you have been told by someone who meant well to just pray it away and let God be enough. And it did not work, and you assumed you failed. You did not fail. You were handed the ditch on the right. The God who is enough is the same God who looked at a man who had him completely and said, "This one still needs someone he can see." Reaching for people is not a betrayal of God. In this story, it is literally God's idea. Go back to the garden one more time. Everything in it passed inspection. Good, good, good. And the single thing the maker called not good was a person carrying an ache he could not fix by himself. God did not shame that ache. He named it first, out loud, before the man could even ask. Then he put the man to sleep, opened up his very side, and built the answer at cost. The whole thing in one line. Loneliness was never the fire. It was always the alarm. And the first flaw God ever flagged in a perfect world, he was also the very first to move to fix, with his own hands, out of the man's own side. So the next time that ache shows up at midnight, do not read it as a verdict. Read it as a signal that is doing exactly what your maker built it to do. It is not telling you that you are broken. It is telling you what you are for. So here is the one thing I would ask you to do. Somebody in your life is lying awake tonight, treating their alarm like it is the fire. Certain the ache means something is wrong with them. You already know who they are. Send them this video, not to fix them, just so they hear what the man in the garden heard, that the ache is not a verdict. It is a signal, and the God who named it first is the one who moved to answer it.